We design, we do software. We are the best at it. We should be proud of it. It's really a celebration.
Well, as we can see, the cars are coming to the line. The yard of bricks, the Indianapolis bricks, will launch them up the hill. And the man to cover it, of course, is Sky Sports F1 commentator David Croft.
Thank you very much indeed, Keith. Isn't it wonderful to see such classic machines going up the hill? Alain Prost was here yesterday behind the wheel of an old Renault, and today we have even more iconic machines that are being driven. Not all in anger, it has to be said. There's a lot of demo runs here as well in the blue sky and sunshine as we watch the Benetton just making its way at a lovely pedestrian pace. So the crowd that are lining the banks here, not sure where to look, either on the track or up in the air, can get as good a view as possible. Straw bales either side, and we've seen a few cars going off into those straw bales, I can tell you that, over the last 3 days. And a word of tribute to the wonderful marshals that have helped us out, lining the course all the way through it. Old McLaren now in the Bruce McLaren famous orange, making its way past the house. Scott Durneck over from North America in this Cosworth M14A.
David, that is an iconic car in itself, because Bruce McLaren started off with those orange colours. Dan Gurney drove for him, Denny Hulme drove for him. This was the original McLaren before Ron Dennis came in 1980 and took it over. I know, because I was working for McLaren then, and Ron booted me out. No, that's not fair. 50% of us were made redundant, but that's evocative for us. And when you go back to McLaren, to the technical centre there in Woking, you can find a lot of these fantastic cars on display.
Yes, the workforce at the McLaren Technology Centre not only walked past a whole heap of historic McLaren cars on their way to lunch, they also walked past a trophy cabinet jam-packed with over 400 trophies as well. It's not bad for staff motivation. Now, this former McLaren looks rather like the one that we saw going up the hill rather quickly in a 41.6 seconds. Nick Heidfeld behind the wheel once again. And the first thing you notice, Tony, is the noise gets that much louder as we get that much closer to the modern era.
It certainly does, but this is the Mika Hakkinen championship winning car, the MP4 13, the one in which Nick Heidfeld set the record here in 1999. He promised to have a go. Doesn't look like he's quite on the edge that he was all those years ago. He was a lot younger then, wasn't he, Crofty?
He was. He doesn't think he can go that much faster, but he thinks that one day somebody will. And I wish we'd had a stopwatch on this one, because he's getting torn to shreds.
Oh dear.
As we head back live and down to the start line. Marc Genet has been on duty in the Ferrari F10 so far this weekend. Fresh, of course, from his Le Mans exploits. Great sports car and endurance racer now as well. This the Ferrari F10. Fernando Alonso began his Ferrari career in. Well, swapped around the F60. Today it should have been the F10 going up the track, the one that Fernando Alonso won the Bahrain Grand Prix in, of course, in 2010. And tell you what, Marc Genet's not hanging about too much either, is he?
I was going to say, David, that Marc Genet has been a long time servant of Ferrari, tested so many Ferraris, been responsible for so much development of these cars, but he himself is a fine racer, and as you mentioned, Le Mans, there he was with Toyota, but he previously won the race with Peugeot. Fantastic driver, and much underrated.
Very much so. And blink and you'll miss it. Another flying run from Marc Genet. And I hope the onboard camera caught the whites of his eyes as he approached the flip wall and past it. I can spy the Red Bull in the distance. Mark Webber has been here on Red Bull duty today. Sebastian Vettel came yesterday, said that Goodwood, and on his first appearance at Goodwood, was like a fun fair. except a fun fair purely for motor cars, which I thought was a wonderful way of summing up the thrills and the spills and the ups and downs of this glorious weekend. And this Red Bull, Mark Webber reunited with the car that, of course, he won in Brazil in the final race of the 2011 season, a car that gave us 12 victories out of 19 races.
Fantastic, but I wonder when we get to the British Grand Prix, if they have another new nose cone like they did 2 years ago and they don't have any spares, they'll nick it from him, give it to Vettel, cause a storm, he'll go and get pole, win the race and say, how's that for a number 2 driver, mate?
Absolutely. Mark Webber this morning, not just here on driving duties on 4 wheels, but was taking part in some Formula 1 games as well, with some rather hardcore gamers. And I'm told was beaten rather convincingly by some of them as well. Big round of applause for a man who loves his motorsport. If he's not driving a Formula 1 car, you can bet your bottom dollar that he's either watching MotoGP or he's watching GT action or he's finding a junior Formula to watch. I remember seeing him once and came up and said, "Oh mate, thought that GT1 race last week was epic." So when you start watching it, yeah mate, loved it.
But the great thing about him, as you say, he loves all forms of motorsport, but especially bikes. He went over to the TT with his friend John McGuinness on the occasion of him winning his 19th TT, and Webber was there with him congratulating him. He just loves it.
Doesn't he just? They are packed 20, 30 deep. This the scene just looking back from Moulcom. Meanwhile, down at the start, the angry bird himself, Heikki Kovalainen. Well, Mark Webber puts on a display and a few donuts right at the top of the hill. You see, he stays off the grass, which is what you're meant to do here.
Well, he's a very polite Australian, isn't he? He respects the green stuff, you know. It's the good old English turf there.
So here goes Heikki Kovalainen, sporting, by the way, underneath the helmet in his Caterham Cosworth T127, a brand new haircut. He's had the locks shaved off that the team reckon is worth at least 0.2 of a second when it comes to the British Grand Prix.
Well, we had some fun with him this morning because he was on the live stage here at Goodwood, and we looked at his haircut. I said, you really do look like a raiding Viking. And by the way, leave our women alone, because he has got this English girlfriend who's promised to marry her as well. I said, your bacon's all right, but leave our women alone. He said, do you know the great thing about coming to Goodwood? He said, I can say what I like. So he said something very funny, which I can't repeat.
Not in front of a family audience.
Exactly. He said, I enjoyed it. I love going up the hill, which he is in the Caterham. And he said, I will try and come back here every year if I can, because he loves rubbing shoulders with his heroes who are here.
It would be great to see him back again. The car he drove today was a Team Lotus last year. Caterham now rebranded, of course. And now we get on to Mercedes. Not the successful car that brought them victory, of course, in the Chinese Grand Prix. And a first ever victory for Nico Rosberg. This is the 2011 Mercedes MGP W02.
But you see there, David,
unsteady.
A bit unsteady there, but David, you see on the front they've put the latest nose cone on the front of last year's car, and this was Michael's car, wasn't it?
Certainly was. Nico Rosberg on driving duties today. We haven't had Michael Schumacher at the Festival of Speed. I know that Lord March desperate to get Michael here one day, maybe next year for the 20th anniversary of this festival, but brilliant to see Nico here. Tell you what, just looks a little bit like he's struggling around Moulcom.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, because this year in Grand Prix they've either got it really right like they did in China, and then even Monte Carlo they were good with his second place, or then it's really, really wrong, and it can't all be tyres. There must be a lot of link through to set up in the aerodynamics. Seems so complicated this year, but fabulous season nonetheless.
Nico Rosberg, fabulous season with victory, of course, in China. Pole position there as well. One of those magnificent 7 different drivers who gave us such an epic first 7 races of the year. Never before in Formula 1 have we had 7 different drivers win the opening 7 Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso rather spoiled the statistics, of course, in Valencia. Although I'm told we have had 8 out of 8. We've had 8 different drivers get 8th place in the first 8 races of the season. It's not quite the same though, is it?
No, it's not quite the same. But I thought Alonso did a fantastic job in Valencia, coming from 11th on the grid. I thought his aggressive start was superb to watch. Typical Alonso, gritty performance. And he's the dark horse of the championship.
McLaren got 6 victories last season in the MP4 26. Oliver Turvey their young test driver on duty today. Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button were both down here yesterday. And like I said, lots of McLaren replica merchandise here. Very much the car that the fans have come to see. So Oliver isn't going to disappoint, and he's going to give them a few donuts. And Jerome D'Ambrosio did this yesterday one-handed. Oliver needed two hands today.
Show off, show off.
They make him brave in Belgium, you know.
Yeah, they do. Oliver Turvey there waving away as a test driver with McLaren. He said he spends a lot of his time now in the simulator. And some drivers can do it, some can't. Michael Schumacher cannot go into the simulator. He feels desperately ill in there.
Yep, Oliver Turvey and Gary Paffett do the simulator work. Often crunching the numbers on a Friday as well, whilst they work on a setup to get right for Saturday, such as the resources that this British team have back in Woking at the McLaren Technology Centre. And everywhere Oliver Turvey goes, there are waves, there are cheers, there are a round of applause as well. Who knows, one day he might be coming back here as a Grand Prix winner himself. Certainly that's the ambition for this young driver, rising star. The BRDC, British Motorsport.
He also had some assistance, I think, from the Steps campaign as well, a GP2 winner. I mean, he's in a good position, David. He just has to keep working hard as he is, and he might get his break. You never know.
What's he going to give us now? A few burnouts. And then puts his foot to the floor, and onwards up to the finish. And Oliver Turvey's day is pretty much done as he crosses the line.
He's also a great engineer. He loves his engineering. He has a Cambridge Blue for engineering, the first time that has been awarded. He's a very studious young man.
Now, we talked about the Lotus, didn't we? The Lotus Renault R30 and Jerome D'Ambrosio doing his one-handed burner donuts yesterday. And he's decided today that there's not going to be a single bit of rubber left on those tyres by the time they get this car back to Enston. The car that took 3 podiums a couple of seasons ago gave Robert Kubica second place in Australia. Robert Kubica, who we'd love to see back competing back here at the Festival of Speed as well, and we wish him all the best as he continues his recovery. And there, the one-handed donut once again.
One-handed donut, I'd like to eat that.
That's his signature move, you know.
Yeah.
That is to Jerome D'Ambrosio what the triple axel was to Torvill and Dean.
Well, Jerome D'Ambrosio, another GP2 graduate, he's done a great job, but the testing role is not what they really want. It is like sort of treading water and biding your time until you get that break. But at least he's there knocking on the door. He's been there briefly, but it didn't go very well.
No, was with, of course, the Virgin team last year. Got a 14th place finish, but was ousted by Charles Pic in that team this year, but actually believes being at Lotus Renault is a good move for him. Keeps him in the Formula 1 paddock.
Oh, I think that Lewis is probably a bit quicker, but if you take all conditions that the race may happen and problems with tyres and so on, then I'd be inclined to.
There's Lewis.
He's going up now.
That was running yesterday, so Sterling.
Right.
They're a wonderful team, though, aren't they? As far as teammates are concerned, you couldn't do much better for McLaren.
No, very
to work strategy and the like.
Very, very good team, and I think the car and everything, the preparations, they are superb. There's no doubt the cars of today are as good as they could be. But then the cars I drove were as good as we knew about then. It's just a different scene, you know.
Jenson Button too. I mean, he has a completely different fan following. I mean, I think the personalities have separate sets of fans. I think you're either a McLaren fan or a Button or a Hamilton fan.
Yes,
perhaps.
I think so. But one thing I must say about Lewis is he's a really late breaker, which makes him exciting to watch. You know, when there's a race on, he will outbrake most people, and that is not easy, because putting brakes on isn't just a case of pushing with your right foot, as people may think. It really is quite difficult to control a Formula 1 car. I'm sure of this era. I know even in my era that could be quite difficult.
Indeed. Well, you heard Sir Sterling say that hill climbs were de rigueur just a few years ago, and that's what we're all here for at Goodwood. Cool tyres are the biggest concern for every driver or rider as the blast up to the first right-hand corner and then braking hard for the second focuses the mind. Then it's a flat-out blast past Goodwood House and braking hard for the first left-hander at Moulcombe Corner. No time to catch your breath because the Flint Wall is next and you're only allowed to breathe in. Finally, it's the left kink as we get to the top of the hill and the finish line timing lights. Nick Heidfeld is the fastest man over the 1.16 miles, 41.6 seconds at over 100 miles an hour.
In 2011, we had the Bricks from Indianapolis at the start line, and we had Dan Collins in his Lotus 88B claiming the title of the fastest man. An unconventional helmet in an unconventional car. It never raced in a Grand Prix, but Collins got just the right amount of power and guile to tackle this track and take the famous trophy, even if he did touch the grass just slightly before the finish line.
That's what the track looks like. Let's see how they got on Saturday.
Yeah, much drier conditions for this afternoon session. Gary Ward and the Leighton House Judd, as we said earlier, the man that they've all got to catch, the man who set the fastest time in the damp conditions, and the man who thinks he can go about 4 or 5 seconds faster than we've seen already. And already, Tony Jardine, it's quite clear he's pushing quite hard out there.
He's pushing very hard, and he's managed to fit into that slimline Leighton House, the Adrian Newey designed and penned car. Just look at that narrow aerodynamic chassis, which only just allows the driver to squeeze his feet together between the brake pedal and the accelerator. A great effort from Gary Ward.
Fastest time, isn't it? 45.74. We've not seen anything faster than that so far this weekend. Remember, they get 6 runs in total just to see who decides the title of the fastest man at Goodwood up the hill in 2012. This car, has to be said, Tony Jardine, is one of your personal favourites, isn't it? The Chevron GT3.
I really do like it, because it's a reincarnation of the iconic Chevron B8, but this is the new Chevron car company, and this is a car that's doing so well in GT Race and the GT Cup, and it's Anthony Reid, 15-time winner in the BTCC, a man who's been on the podium at Le Mans, a great racer.
Great shot on board as well as he comes underneath the bridge, past the house straight and on his way up towards Moulcombe. Jordan Witt did a very good job, I thought, in that Chevron today. David Witt, his dad, would have been very proud indeed. Anthony Reid, meanwhile, bags of experience, has been up this hill many, many times as well. We are expecting and seeing something pretty electric here.
Yes, we are, and he's been up here in a Williams Formula One car, he's been up here in a BTCC cars, and all the time he's committed. He really is committed. I race against him here at the Revival as well. He's a fantastic, aggressive driver. Look at that time, Crofty, 47.7. That's a good time.
Nudging Tony, 130 miles an hour when he crossed the line as well. 47.7 in the GT3. Very comparable indeed when you think 45.7 for the Leighton House Judd. I know the GT3s are a little bit more modern, but engine sizes, big difference in downforce as well. That's a very credible effort. Right, back then to the Jaguar. Justin Law and the Jaguar XJR 89. Marshall's getting ready.
Yeah, the Jaguar fans will absolutely love this. This is what they all used to go to Le Mans and see, the big groups, see the big cats. Really, they lapped it all up. They won at Le Mans so many times. Johnny Dumfries was one of the drivers. Raul Boesel actually drove this car and won the World Championships in it. Eddie Cheever drove the cars. But you can understand why there was such a massive British following. Jaguars coming back to Le Mans after the D-Types and all their success in the 50s, and the Aston Martins in the early 60s.
And I could almost feel and imagine people falling off their sofas, such as the braking deceleration of this Jaguar, and people moving with it. This is a very committed run indeed by Justin Law. The track totally dried out now, conditions so much better than they were this morning.
We celebrate that with them here at Goodwood, but as you can see, the cars are on the hill. And again, we are seeing more action up and down, and David Croft is sitting in the commentary position, waiting with bated breath for the very latest on the track.
Yeah, I certainly am. In the meantime, just settle back, ladies and gentlemen, and watch some classic cars from years gone by. This the sedate before the stressful, the hill climb to come here on Sky Sports this afternoon. And although the sun has slightly gone in and the weather a little inclement here in the south of England, it is still a beautiful sight watching these wonderful machines going up this 1.1 mile hill, the Alfa Romeo 3000 CM, as sedate and as gentle as you like. And you can barely hear the engine, Tony Jardine, as well.
No, you can't, but this is, every era is represented here, isn't it? Because we've got down in the cathedral paddock, we've got the, you know, pre First World War vehicles, some of them, and right pre-Second World War vehicles and stuff, and you've got W125 Mercedes Silver Arrows from the past, but you know, Alfa Romeos are represented here in the Tipo 33 as well. The interesting thing for me, Crofty, is that when we were speaking to Emanuele Pirro this morning, he's Italian, he's all about Italy, this is an Italian car, and he was saying, you've got far more heritage here in UK, you can't believe what you've got and what we see and what we love when we come here. You say, yeah, we've got Ferrari Mille Miglia, he said, but that's about it.
We've got the heritage, we've got the history. For the first time this year as well, we also had go-karts running up the track, which I thought was absolutely sensational to see 3 karts going up in tribute to Martin Hines, the man who masterminded so many careers of Formula 1 drivers, of current DTM drivers as well. He was an absolute legend in the world of British go-karting, honoured here by 3 of his, 4 I should say, of his zip karts running up the hill for the first time. Well worth mentioning that, because it's nice to see the Festival of Speed honouring a man who a lot of people don't know a huge amount about, but those that he has helped will never forget him.
Exactly, behind the scenes he was the star maker, he was Mr. Karting, and people like David Coulthard, as you've said, Lewis Hamilton, all helped along their way in the Zip young guns, because Zip karting was what it started. But he also won incredible amount of world titles, European titles in superkarts, karts with wings on the back which were faster than Formula 3 cars, absolutely amazing. And he did a fantastic job for motorsport, you know, building the stars.
Certainly did. 4 cars, all in formation here, and getting a very, very good reception from the crowd. Just wondering what we're seeing right behind all of this, actually.
Well, there is one of the B-type Jaguars. It's following the C-type Jaguar, and behind that is Bob Tullius in the 44 car, which was the Jaguar E-type derivative, which they raced in the American SCCA series. I watched him race when I was a flag marshal over at Michigan Speedway. And Bob Tullius is a man who converted his wife's 1964 Mercury Tempest from a shopping car.
Watching intently, and here out on the track, Michael Bartels in the Maserati MC12. Glorious sunshine as he just about hangs on to the tarmac round the first corner. And approaching now Moulcombe, which is the one where you have to get the braking done in that straight line. We see so many cars going off at Moulcombe throughout the 4 days here at Goodwood, and it's those that haven't got their braking done before they make the left-hand turn. Now passing the Flint Wall, looking fairly rapid. Michael Bartels here, winner, of course, of multiple GT championships, world championships over the years, and competing in a BMW Z4 this season. This is car that won the 2010 GT World Championship, and a 52nd dead is a very competitive time indeed from a very, very good driver. Meanwhile, here is a young man that could be going places. I've really enjoyed watching Dan Lloyd out on the hill so far this weekend, attacking every single corner that he possibly can. Races in the support series for the British Touring Car Championship, just Dan, but making the most, Tony Jardine, of his weekend here at Goodwood.
Yeah, I think he's really enjoying himself, but you could say it is the venerable 911 in its many different editions, and here we have it in GT3 Cup edition. It's still a very powerful car indeed, the GT3 RS, with that same 6-cylinder engine in it, but they push out about 450 horsepower at 8,500 RPM.
And only 0.7 of a second slower than Michael Bartels in that magnificent Maserati.
That seriously is impressive, David. That's very impressive indeed.
Isn't it just? Michael Crum now. We've had GT1 World Championship winner in 2010. now the GT1 World Championship winner in 2011. Maserati against Nissan, as the Nissan got the muscle here to try and beat 50 seconds, only 0.2 of a second down. There is a personal battle going on between Bartels and Crum, and that's very, very tight indeed. Meanwhile, this is the guy they've all been trying to head so far this weekend. In the Leighton House, Judd, Gary Ward has experience and horsepower.
He certainly does, and that Judd engine there, that was a Grand Prix engine de rigueur in 1990, as was the wide track suspension with those big wide tyres on it as well. And Adrian Newey designed, very slimline car, very difficult, as we've said, for the driver to squeeze into the cockpit, and certainly the footwell, David, just about enough room to get your feet together, but not much room to articulate on the pedals. Adrian Newey's job there, all about aerodynamics, all about speed, nothing to do with driver comfort.
Not the fastest he's gone this weekend, 46.20, didn't break 46 seconds, but that's still very, very good in conditions, once again, as it was yesterday morning, that are still not completely dry out there. Gary Ward, fastest man out on the track. Andrew Beaumont, meanwhile, going for it as well. Now, can he manage to get under 52 seconds? That would
Going to be quick because the track looks dry.
Perfect timing, thank you very much indeed. Keith, we had a car broken down on the hill, holding up the hill climb, but we're ready to go now. David Tetley getting us underway in this Opel Manta, the 400 stars and stripes, one of the Thunder Saloons, thundering its way up the hill. David Tetley searched for this car for many, many years and found it. It had been sitting unused for about 18 years between runs, and he's got it going once again, which is great to see. Love the Opel Manta, love these Thunder Saloons. They just sound like everything that a saloon car should sound, Tony Jardine.
Yeah, the Thunder Saloon series in the United Kingdom has been hugely, hugely popular. We've had vehicles like Baby Bertha, which was the big Vauxhall that raced against this, and even the Sultan of Johor in Malaysia had this car special guesting over. He fell in love with it so much, not least of which its colour scheme.
57 seconds and just topping 100 miles an hour as he crosses the line, David Tetley there. So he has set the pace. Let's see who can follow along. It's Peter Stevens in another Thunder Saloon, the Vauxhall Carlton TS 6000. Raced by Derek Bell, I think, this in the late 80s. Took John Cleland and Vince Woodman to the championship in '88 as well.
But Vauxhall did a fantastic job in terms of their racing, because they went racing, they went rallying, and they wanted to have the silhouette formula, so it looked like the car that was in the showroom, but underneath it, of course, it had the big engine, the big gearbox, and hence this sort of time that we're putting in a lot of power that's pushing out.
Coming up to the second intermediate time, he's made up a bit of time as Peter Stevens in the second sector, only 0.08 of a second to try and beat David Tetley's time, which you can see on your screen now. Full pelt, and over the line we go. Can he do it? Not quite. Lost time and goes second of two, sadly, for Peter Stevens. We're not going to see him figuring at the end of this shootout in the top five, I wouldn't have thought. A few showers have been forecast, but the sun out at the moment. Keep your fingers crossed here as we take up the pace with the Lola Chevrolet T310 of Peter Schleifer.
Yes, this was the last Can-Am Lola that was produced by the Huntingdon firm, and the very, very sad thing is, Scrofty, that Lola has gone into administration.
Right.
A car company, racing car company that exported cars all around the world, formed in 1958. It's very, very sad. And in fact, the Rebellion Lola finished fourth with Heidfeld driving this year at Le Mans. That was a bit of an off.
A little mistake from Schleifer there. He was in touch, will have lost time in what is described as the longest, widest, biggest monocoque racing car ever built, and despite that mistake, that Can-Am car is getting its job done at the moment and is picking up time and is picking up pace, and Peter Schleifer comes to cross the line now, and he's gone and broken 57 seconds. Very good effort indeed from Peter.
8.4 litre engine in that. It's massive, the Can-Am series, almost an unlimited class. And here's a Pikes Peak vehicle.
Look at the rear wing on this. If you want it big and wide, folks, if you like it big at the back, this is the Peugeot 405 for you, the car that climbed Pikes Peak. And if you've never ever looked up Pikes Peak, I urge you to do so. It's a marvellous hill climb. Ari Vatanen won his class, in this car, up that 10.5-mile course.
Scary, scary place, David. 152 turns all the way up to the sky, and that's what they call it, the race to the sky up there in Colorado. But sadly, it won't happen this year due to all the forest fires in that area.
Real shame. It's about 10 miles west of Colorado Springs. My heart goes out to all those affected by the wildfires there. Enda Garvey shouldn't have any problems with the hill climb here. This car can do 156 corners, can do a few here, 55.77. Nice. Fastest time so far, as you would expect from an out-and-out hill climber, the Peugeot 405. A little bit closer to what you normally see on the road, the Ford Sierra Cosworth here, the RS 500. Paul Smith in it, the Touring Titans class, has given us some great tin-top racing cars out on the track, and this one of the most famous of the lot.
Yeah, this was loved by Ford fans, by British touring car fans. Even in the European Touring Car Championship, the Eggenberger team from Germany raced this vehicle. But I remember watching Andy Rouse driving it in the British Championship Series, multi-championship winning that, and they took it rallying as well. And Ford have been very serious about all forms of their motorsport over the years, and this was a powerful beast.
Saw Paul getting a little bit sideways going through Moulcombe there, and a little bit sideways once again. So proper rally spec on the Cosworth, the Sierra Cosworth here. Enda Garvey's time on the right-hand side. Across the line goes Paul. Second down, 56.97. That's not going to get him the trophy here this afternoon. Maybe David Donner in this Donner Chevrolet DD3, another Pikes Peak car in the open-wheeled category, can take the honours instead. It's one of the beauties of Pikes Peak. It's not just about closed-wheel cars, rally cars. You get the open wheels. I think you even get trucks going up there as well.
You do, and one of those trucks is here at Goodwood. But this vehicle, just it's an outlaw, isn't it? It's outlandish. I mean, look at that huge rear wing. What is going on there? There's an engine in the middle as a stressed member. It's got unbelievable power, 800 brake horsepower, for goodness sake.
And they took it from a NASCAR Sprint Cup car as well, that engine. Fabulous, and it's got some grunt out there at the moment. This is really impressive from David Donner here. If he carries on the way he's going, he's going to get very, very close to 50 seconds by the end of this run. You can see the finish line coming up. Close, 51.72, a massive 4 seconds faster.
That's amazing. An overall winner in 91, 2002 and 2005 at the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. He's also been at the Daytona 24 Hours.
So David Donner, so far, the man they all have to beat. Lotus Cosworth 77 comes up next. The car that got Lotus back to the winner's circle with Mario Andretti when he won at Fuji in 1976. Chris Locke, an attorney with a San Francisco law firm, former federal prosecutor behind the wheel.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You want him to win, don't you?
You certainly do. We're on your side. We're on your side. But that's it with, the Americans love Lotus. They've loved Lotus racing. Don't forget when they've been over there winning American Grand Prix, and of course Indianapolis, where they made famous with the first rear-engine cars in '63, where Jim Clark nearly won and beat Parnelli Jones, who was spewing oil out all over him. But this was a car that really made the breakthrough. They'd lost their way. Colin Chapman got them back on track with the 77. And
breaks 55 seconds as well, which is not a bad effort up the hill this afternoon. David Donner then still the man to beat as we look down at the Ferrari 721. Paul Knapfield, expert in the hill climb here, is the man behind the wheel.
Now this is amazing, I think, David, because it is probably one of the ugliest Ferraris. It's certainly one of the biggest Ferraris with this 7-litre engine. It's not something that Enzo Ferrari would have been particularly proud of.
Oh, but it was the most powerful engine, wasn't it?
Sure was the most powerful engine. And Chris Amon drove this for a while in Can-Am, and that's what Can-Am was about. Yes, it was covered bodywork, but yes, it was unlimited class in this Canadian-American Cup Series. And McLaren were in there with their M8F, and Ferrari decided, let them have it all their own way. Let's go in there and give it a go too.
And it's not a bad car for hill climbs, only 9/10 of a second down at the moment. David Franklin won many British hill climbs, drove this car up the hill a few times. In the hands of Paul Knapfield, former GT World Championship race winner. and he goes 53.23 to cross the line. Competitive, might just take him into second place. I think that time that he produced on the 1.1 mile hill climb. As we get going once again, they come thick and fast on the hill climb here. Andy Willis in the Williams Cosworth FW08.
Now this is very much one of the stalwart Williams cars. Here we go in the Keke Rosberg era, when he won the World Championship by winning just one Grand Prix that particular year, but getting him on the grass there as well. And that, he'd have been proud of that, Keke Rosberg, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he just brushed it off with his user. There's nothing, that is nothing I can carry on with that. I've got lovely downforce being generated underneath this car. It can stick to anything. Is it good enough for a hill climb, though, this afternoon? 5/10 down. Still, David Donner up at the top of the hill with the fastest time so far. Looking good, unless Andy Willis has got a little bit more grunt. As he crosses the line, 52.10. Not quite good enough. Takes him second, I think.
Now the Lotus 76, that's the one that we were talking about before. This is the car that took over from the Lotus 72, which had that great time span and won so many Grand Prix. Only 4 Grand Prix raced in it by Ronnie Peterson. He didn't like the electric clutch. He didn't like the fact that it had the anti-dive suspension, that twin wing at the back. It was heavier than the Lotus 72, and what's more, he said to Colin Chapman, give me my Lotus 72 back, and this car was put back in the garage.
Yeah, it did come fourth in the German Grand Prix. It didn't do much else. It was retired halfway through the season, and Andy Beaumont, as we heard a little earlier in the programme, running wet tyres with no tread, just to see if they can do the job, and so far, not looking too bad at all in this Lotus Cosworth 76. Biplane rear wing, looks spectacular. Wasn't the greatest car on the track, but you know what? We've had cars that haven't done well in Grand Prix racing win here before, and he's the first man of this afternoon to go underneath 50 seconds, a 49.74 for Andy Beaumont.
Well, Dan Collins was saying, he's one of my teammates, he's from the stable there of Classic Team Lotus, and was enjoying himself. He predicted he might do very well, and he has.
So, Andy Beaumont replaces David Donner at the top. The Pikes Peak car has been knocked off its perch by the Lotus Cosworth. We move on, and with the 911 now of Daniel Lloyd. Just clipping the apex, taking a bit of grass around that first corner. So corner so good it doesn't need another name, quite frankly. And on towards Moulcombe he comes now. This is really tricky under braking, and look, he's a 10th up, but running just slightly wide at Moulcombe. A 10th to the goods, but he's going to tense up in the car after that little mistake.
He could do a Moulcombe. He did well to get through there, because that's claimed some big scalps in time, including Nigel Mansell. But look at him go.
Yeah, he's lost a couple of tenths, can still make that up. The lightweight Porsche 911, really well suited to this hill climb so far. Has he got it? He has, by 9/100ths of a second. Dan Lloyd takes the lead.
That is an amazing performance. Well done, Dan Lloyd. And I think he will be in the support race at the British Grand Prix.
He will in the Porsche Super Cup. Normally races in the Carrera Cup. Going in the Porsche Super Cup. This is not the greatest start that Rod Millen's Toyota, another Pikes Peak car, has ever come up with. Yeah, now it's kicked in, that engine, but I think he's lost a little bit too much time there.
Yeah, he certainly has. He stuttered off the line there. It seemed like either the clutch didn't bite properly or the turbo didn't kick in. And
he's spewing out some muck though, isn't it?
He certainly is. Now here's another man, Rod Millen, a rally man. Started with Mazda in New Zealand, won 70 championships, then he went over to
Tony as well. He might go to the bales. He's just touched it with the rear wing, and eventually does come to grief, and that's made a little bit of damage, as you can see, to the right-hand side of that Toyota Tacoma. Oh dear, first red flag. I'd rather had a feeling we were going to get one today. Get onto the grass. There's not much grip on there. It is very damp, and he did his utmost best to correct the steering, but the minute he went left, he had to go right, he had to go left and right, and eventually the straw bales did their job and ended his.
David, the problem was right at the start. Whatever technical issues he had there, he was trying to make up the time desperately. He was getting out of shape already down at the bottom, and this is really bad. He will be feeling distraught about this because he's a rally champion. He's champion of the hill at Pikes Peak. He's won so many times. To make this elementary error like this is not great for Rod Millen.
Yeah, Rod Millen waves to the crowd there. It won at Pikes Peak in 1994. His time was good enough to stand as a record until 2007. That's how good he actually is at hill climbs. I think he's won overall 5 times at Pikes Peak, and he's won here at the festival at the Tacoma before as well. But the marshals, 5 of them down there, have got some straw bales to adjust, because today it's all ended up a little bit miserably for him.
But Crofty, what happens is when the cars go off into those bales, it's like hitting concrete anyway, because there are big stakes in the ground holding down the big bales. There's no Armco, and they have to do their job. So it's as good as hitting metal, and you can see the way it's crunched up the car. Just look at the front end there, look at the right front suspension, the wheel all askew. Hopefully the chassis in there is okay, and it's superficial.
Yeah, it just looks like some of the carbon fibre has got underneath there, and it's a bit of a crumpled heap. It's going to take a while, Tony, just to get that car away. I don't know if there is a bit of runoff down at the Flint Wall or not, but it's going to need something sending to it to drag it along, to be fair.
Do you know what I think here, David, as well? Because he's a member of the Screen Actors Guild and he's done so many stunts in his time doing stunt driving for movies, perhaps he got a little bit carried away and thought, I'm in the Goodwood movie, I want to be part of this. But he's equally at home doing stunts for movies as he is trying to set fastest time on hill climbs.
If it had got out of that, it would have been one of his greatest stunts ever, but 201 just proved a little bit too many. Rod Millen is out of the...
Well, we're not at the end here at Goodwood. Having had the Rod Millen faux pas at Malcolm, we are now looking forward to the restart of the shootout, and we can re-hand proceedings over to David Croft as we re-enter the hill.
And what a car to get us going once again. Cold tyres, which hasn't helped, I have to say. Jeremy Smith down on the start line. He's been waiting there for quite some time. But this March Cosworth, what a car this is. 6 wheels. Has to be better than 4 wheels, but I think these tyres are very, very cold, and he seems to be struggling a bit, although he's a 1/10 of a second up, not really going in a straight line, squirming around like some sort of fish slapping away on the quayside at the moment. But this is a great sprint from Jeremy Smith. He's kicked up a load of dust that was left from Rod Millen's car going around the Flint Wall. He's lost a bit of time as well.
Oh, that cement dust they must have put down, a little bit of debris, maybe a little bit of oil in there, Crofty, you never know. But this car with its 6 wheels from 1977, designed by Robin Hurd, instead of the Tyrrell, which had the 4 at the front, Robin Hurd decided to get traction by having the 4 at the back, and it never raced.
1 hill climbs with Roy Lane, but sadly, as you say, never raced. This car did, though, the MC12, the Maserati, Michael Bartels. He either wins this or he beats Michael Crum. Either way, he's going to be happy today. Michael Bartels, winner of the GT1 Championship in 2010, desperate to beat the 2011 champion. They've got their own personal battle going on, so let's see how it transpires.
Yeah, that's the big V12. What a massive 6-litre engine in the Maserati. They had a one-make series for this. He's won the FIA series in the Maserati in the past. Nürburgring, 24 hours. A heck of a car. A great driver who did some work in Grand Prix at the time.
Heck of a time coming up here as well. 8/10 up, as you could see, on Daniel Lloyd's time. The lead under threat, the Porsche 911, has been beaten by Michael Bartels with a 48.01. Cracking time from Bartels. That's going to put pressure on the rest that are yet to come, starting with this man, Michael Crum, in the Nissan GTR. Can this car flex its rather considerable muscles and prove that it has the advantage over the Maserati once again?
Nissan making a massive effort now. LMP2 class, loads of the cars are engined. Our own Martin Brundle was powered by Nissan in the LMP2 class of Le Mans this year. These cars are in the Blancpain European Endurance Championship. GT1 champion last year, Michael Crum. What can he do?
Well, I've just felt my back muscles vibrate as that car went past our commentary box, and I'm sure the spectators lining the right-hand side of the course are feeling it too, but that's going to be no crumb of comfort to Michael here. He's 0.8 of a second down on the winning time so far. Bartels is going to win the battle between Maserati and Nissan. He breaks 50 seconds, but only a 49.07 for Michael Crum, a second off the pace. Bragging rights to Bartels in that all-German battle.
Yeah, now it's Anthony Reid. This is my dark horse. And he's been driving with Jordan Witt, his own young gun that he's been training in this new Chevron, which is very evocative indeed from the Chevrons of the past. But Anthony Reid has been quick up here, as you know, Crofty, in Williams cars and BTCC cars. And this is the Chevron GT3. What a fabulous machine.
Well, this man has raced so many different types of cars. Japanese F3s, raced in sports cars, GT as well. Not so much a dark horse, but a lovely, lovely car in the hands of a really experienced driver. And he's 0.8 up going through the first sector. Got very, very close to the Flint wall. I'm amazed that the wing mirror actually stayed on there. But look at this. This is electric pace. 1.3 seconds up now. He could knock 2 seconds off the pace of Bartels here. And he has, you know. Whoa, 46.46. That's an incredible time by Anthony Reid.
Fantastic. Well done, Reedy. That's one up for the touring car drivers.
There are 2 cars to go here on my notes, both of which probably don't know the time that's just been set, and both of which are going to have to go some to try and beat it, starting with his marvellous Group C car, celebrating, aren't we, this year, 30 years since the introduction of the Group C cars, when they look absolutely sexy as hell at Le Mans going round, and this one of the greatest Jags that you would ever want to see, and it's up through the first sector.
Fantastic, and our armies, legions of fans went to Le Mans to watch the Jaguars. The D-Type Jaguars set the pace in the 50s, the Aston Martin in 1960, and then the Jaguars came back, the big cats, and they won, and our own Martin Brundle from Sky Sports won. And this is a car that was driven by Eddie Cheever. Look at this! Justin
Law taking a wider berth around the Flint wall. I think that's cost him. He's 0.5 down, half a second down, with a 47.05, so that takes him into second place. But Justin Law can't do it. Anthony Reid sits on top of the standings, and we get to Gary Ward in the Leighton House Judd. This is the car that has set the pace in every single session so far. Brilliant tyre smoke as he blasts away from the line of bricks. This Adrian Newey designed car that Ivan Capelli raced, led in France for 45 laps before falling away, taking a bit of grass as he takes the tightest line possible, Gary Ward, through the first corner.
And don't forget that this David Croft was a small Grand Prix team at the time. This was one of the minnow teams. I'm not saying they were Minardi, but in this year, 1990, they were challenging the establishment. They were beating the Ferraris at the time, and they were up there, and Ivan Capelli got a drive with Ferrari through his exploits in this Leighton House.
That middle sector Anthony Reid put in might just be enough to take him all the way here. Gary Ward's got the power down. Is it good enough? No! Chevron and Anthony Reid are the winners here at Goodwood in 2012, and the car that has been on top all weekend long has been toppled right at the end of play. The Leighton House Judd beaten into second place by Anthony Reid in the Chevron GR8 GT3. What a fantastic drive that was from Anthony Reid. He did it all in the middle sector, marvellous through the Flint wall, and we have the pace of the Chevron giving us victory. And out on the track now we have the rather sedate car. I'd like to tell you what this is, but I think it's from the pre-war Grand Prix car, Tony, isn't it?
It certainly is one of the older talents. Yeah, they still have some of the cars that are going to go out and set their own times up the hill, and you have these pre-war class cars. Look at the old gear lever outside the cockpit there. They are tremendous. You've got to be brave to hang on in one of those.
Only just built in 1911. The Fiat S74, the young American racing and speedcraft speedboat pioneer Caleb Bragg, I think, almost won the US Grand Prix in this. I was just trying to wait and see as it came into view which one it was. It's not going to win you any prizes for a hill climb, not in 2012, but it's going to give you a few marks for style and effort and looks as well. And I bet you it's pretty nippy in that cockpit, that open cockpit as well, as it races its way up, probably at about, what, 60 miles an hour going up towards the finish line? Maybe a little more.
Not going to be a lot more, but you can look at those early pioneering days, and this is the great thing again about Goodwood. We've got cars going back to the beginning of the century and through to the 20s and 30s.
But
revive the chevron mark from the iconic B8. You know, this car,
so
this
difficult though when you've
it.
sat down there for 40 minutes, as he said, stone cold, and he's having to wait. He doesn't know what he's going to be faced with. He can't see what's on the track, where the crash actually was. So he doesn't know how much dust there is, how much debris there might be.
And that's what we were saying. He gets through Moulcombe pretty neatly there, but you've got to watch when he gets to Flint Wall how closely he shaves it. That's where he took the risks, right there. And I'm sure there must be some little marks on the side of the car. That's where he made those fractions of a second. That's where he made the difference. And as I say, young Jordan Witt, his young teammate who's watching this, has been quick himself.